Good afternoon, everyone. Please make your way to your seats. We'll begin. My name is Mamiko Kim. I'm the Director of Communications and Operations at the Japan International Transport and Tourism Institute, USA, or JITTI. We are expecting a full house today, so if you can make your way to the front and center of the room, that would be helpful for any latecomers who will arrive. Before we begin, please note that this event will be conducted in 2 languages, and we offer simultaneous interpretation through the headsets at your seats. You'll find that English will be on channel 1 and Japanese will be on channel 2. If there are any problems with your headset, please notify a member of our staff to assist you. 皆様こんにちは。JITTIのMamiko Kim.
Hello everyone, my name is Mamiko Kim, Director of Communications and Operations at JITTI. Thank you so much for joining us today. Today we provide this program in English and also Japanese. You can find the headset on your seat, and then please listen to that interpretation. And English is on channel 1, Japanese is on channel 2. If your headset has any problems, please let us know. I can help you with that. And then simultaneous interpretation is available today.
Speaker bios and guest surveys can be found through our website at JITTRIUSA.org. Guests attending in person may use the Wi-Fi information found on the screen to access the website. Now, please allow me to formally offer a warm welcome to all of you who are joining the Rail Symposium 2024, which is jointly hosted by JITTI and APTA, the American Public Transportation Association. This symposium is an official participating event of the 2024 National Cherry Blossom Festival, and is being held with support from the Nippon Foundation, the Embassy of Japan in the United States, and the Ronald Reagan Building and International Trade Center. We thank each of these organizations for their generous support. Please also allow me to note a change in our programming. As was noted in our most recent email to attendees, and also on our event website, the FRA Administrator Amit Bose was unfortunately called away, and Deputy Administrator Jennifer Mitchell has graciously come in his stead. We thank her very much for her participation. To open our symposium, Mr. Masafumi Shukuri, Chairman of JITTI and the Japan International Transport and Tourism Research Institute, would like to make some remarks. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Shukuri.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am Masafumi Shukuri, Chairman of the JTTRI, Japan Transport and Tourism Research Institute, and of the JITTI, Japan International Transport and Tourism Institute, USA. I would like to thank everyone who took time out of their busy schedules to join today's symposium in person and online. First of all, I would like to extend my sincere appreciation to the Honorable Shigeo Yamada, Ambassador of Japan to the United States, for his video greeting for this symposium. Ambassador Yamada has been incredibly busy attending Prime Minister Kishida's official visit to the US and arranging official events, including the US-Japan Summit, the trilateral summit with the US, Japan, and the Philippines, and Prime Minister Kishida's invitation to speak at the US Congress, but he kindly spared us his time to give his message here. I would also like to express my deepest gratitude to our 2 keynote speakers, Ms. Jennifer Mitchell, Deputy Administrator, Federal Railroad Administration, Department of Transportation. Ms. Masako Okano, Deputy Director General, Railway Bureau, Ministry of Land, Infrastructure, Transport and Tourism. In addition, I would like to thank our 2 distinguished moderators and 8 panelists representing railway operators in the US and Japan for taking time out of your busy schedules to gather with us here in Washington, D.C. from all over the United States and Japan. Today's symposium is co-sponsored by the American Public Transportation Association, APTA, and the JITTI USA, the US branch of the JTTRI, to discuss the role and significance of rail as public transportation system, and to discuss the situation of railway systems in Japan and the US. With APTA, we have co-organized a number of events, but due to the COVID-19 outbreak, we had to cancel the March 2020 Symposium on rail safety measures, and we are obliged to hold the December 2021 roundtable on the recovery of the railway from pandemic online. Today is the first in-person event we are co-hosting with APTA since the end of the pandemic. Thank you, Chairman Skoutelas. Thanks to your support, we have a wonderful symposium today. Thank you very much. Also, this symposium is held as an official event of the annual National Cherry Blossom Festival, as was our symposium, US-Japan International Exchange and Tourism Symposium, which was held in March 2023. For more than 10 years, cherry blossoms flowering along the Potomac River have been coloring landscape of the capital and feeding the eyes of citizens of Washington, D.C., as if they are symbolizing the perpetual friendship between the US and Japan. Ms. Diana Mayhew, President of the National Cherry Blossoms Festival, is joining us. Thank you very much for your exceptional support for today's event. Today, I would like to focus on the social and economic benefits of the railway system and how we can work together to build a sustainable railway system in the United States and Japan. Here's a little bit of history for you. It was the United States that brought the first railway to Japan in 1854. When Commodore Matthew Calbrace Perry visited Japan on the black ships, he brought various gifts to Tokugawa shogun, among which included a steam locomotive. It was only 2.4 meters long, a quarter-scale model of the real thing, but it was coal-fired and could run at 20 miles per hour. The train, which ran on a circular track about 100 meters long, aroused the curiosity of the Japanese people at the time, and it was recorded in Commodore Perry's diary that everyone wanted to ride on the train. The train brought by Commodore Perry opened the eyes of Japanese people to the situation of railways overseas, especially the aspect of railways as industrial infrastructures. As a result, the Meiji government was able to open the first full-scale railway between Shimbashi and Yokohama, a distance of about 29 kilometers, as early as 1872. Subsequent investment by the public and private sectors led to the construction of a nationwide railway network originated from Tokyo, which stimulated urban development centered on railway station. Against the backdrop of these developments, Japan's railway-related technology has made remarkable progress. In 1964, the world's first high-speed rail, the Shinkansen, was put into service, leading to the development of the superconducting maglev Shinkansen, which runs at a speed of 500 kilometers per hour. In the 1980s, Japanese railway technology made its way back to the United States. In 1983, Kawasaki Railway Manufacturing Company delivered its R62 rail cars to the New York Metro. Since then, Japanese-made rail cars have been operated in transportation systems throughout the US, some of which have been produced by the local factories in the US, contributing to the creation of jobs in the country. In Washington, D.C., where Hitachi Rail has a contract to deliver 256 cars to Washington Metro, a produced facility will be operations this summer in Washington County, Maryland. A mock-up of the fleet of future vehicle that will be manufactured there was on display at the National Mall until last week. We hope you were able to see it. The new vehicle, which has been designed with a variety of customer-oriented features, will be in service in the near future, and we can't wait to see it in service for residents of the capital city. With this historical relationship as a backdrop, both the US and Japan have benefited from the railway system. Nowadays, the significance of railways is attracting renewed attention in order to address new challenges unique to a modern society, such as achieving carbon neutrality society, maintaining and securing urban functions, such as easing traffic congestion and maintaining service during disasters, and economic growth in a mature society. Needless to say, the relationship between the two countries in the fields of railways is becoming closer and more important, as evidenced by the participation of Japanese companies in urban rail and high-speed rail projects, such as the Texas High-Speed Rail in the United States. As today's symposium, we would like to invite Japanese and US government officials and practitioners involved in the railway business to discuss this new significance given to railways, the social and economic value they create, and sustainable railways. I would like to consider these issues together with you. Finally, I would like to conclude my remarks by expressing my hope that today's symposium will contribute to further application of the railway system in order to solve social issues that both countries face in common, and that it will lead to further development of US-Japan friendship. Thank you very much for your kind attention.
Thank you, Mr. Shukuri. Next, please welcome Mr. Paul Skoutelas, President and CEO of the American Public Transportation Association, to the stage. Thank you.
Konnichiwa. Yokoso.
Hello, welcome.
Deputy Administrator Mitchell, it's an honor to welcome you to the 2024 APTA JITTI Rail Symposium. And to all our participants and guests, both here in this room and online, thank you for joining us today. APTA and the Japan International Transport and Tourism Institute have a proud partnership. Our organizations have collaborated for many, many years, bringing together transportation officials from the United States and Japan. This year, we are meeting at a particularly important moment in our bilateral friendship. First, today's symposium is part of the official Cherry Blossom Festival here in Washington. Second, last night, following a full day of meetings, President Biden and First Lady Jill Biden hosted Prime Minister Fumio Kishida and wife Yuko, a state dinner in celebration of one of America's most vital allies. Third, American public transport agencies and international companies are making historic investments in our passenger rail systems, thanks to the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, also known as the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law. With all of that, I cannot imagine a better, more opportune time for this event. Earlier this week, my organization, APTA, held a 3-day meeting of more than 600 members who are most active in advocating for public transportation. We visited members of Congress to explain how the largest federal investment in transit in American history, more than $200 billion for public transit and passenger and freight rail over 5 years, is not just benefiting major urban centers, but smaller cities, suburbs, and rural towns. We heard from Acting Federal Transit Administrator Veronica Vanderpool and Federal Railroad Administrator Amit Bose, both of whom echoed this message from Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg. America would not be what it is today without public transportation. Rail lines brought new western states closer to the rest of the country, and subways helped our biggest cities to grow their populations and become economic powerhouses. Secretary Buttigieg said, "We are returning to our best traditions by making investments that will grow the national economy, strengthen our communities, and change people's lives." Deputy Federal Railroad Administrator Jennifer Mitchell, who will be addressing us later today, is one of the many officials working to achieve the Biden-Harris administration's environmental, social, and fiscal goals by expanding and modernizing our rail network. Our aspirations are high. We know that investing in transit can help America address such issues as affordable housing, cleaner air and water, improved racial and economic equity, and greater access to more opportunities for all. Towards those goals, the Federal Railroad Administration is helping to connect cities and regions with high-performance rail, something Japan led the world in doing 60 years ago when it opened the Shinkansen system. And I had the great fortune and pleasure to ride that system some number of years ago. It is impressive. The U.S. strategy is to begin by focusing on a small number of corridor projects that can advance quickly, while developing a broader picture and pipeline of longer-term projects that will move forward as they become ready. An effective, resilient, and easily accessible passenger rail network represents a missing link in America's overall transportation system. For the first time in more than 150 years, since the first transcontinental railroad united our east and west coasts, the United States has a once-in-a-century opportunity to build that missing link. Amtrak, America's national passenger rail carrier, is expected to become the largest construction program in the United States by 2025. California High-Speed Rail will connect Los Angeles and San Francisco at speeds up to 220 miles per hour. And the Brightline West high-speed intercity passenger rail system between California and Nevada will serve more than 11 million passengers annually. In North Carolina and Virginia, the Raleigh to Richmond Innovating Rail Program will improve passenger travel and strengthen a critical supply chain for American business. The Long Bridge Project, part of the Transforming Rail in Virginia, will construct a new 2-track rail bridge over the Potomac River to expand passenger rail between Washington, D.C. and Richmond, Virginia for 6 million travelers. And there are many more: Atlanta to Washington, Houston to Dallas, Chicago to St. Louis, Portland to Seattle and to Vancouver, Miami to Orlando, and the list goes on. And this is in addition to all the major commuter, heavy, and light rail projects that have recently opened or are being planned and will make a lasting impact on regional economies and quality of life. These include the East Side Access Project in New York City, providing 40 miles of new tracks, a new terminal beneath Grand Central Station, and the modernization of the busiest intersection of passenger train lines in North America. The Purple Line, a 16-mile light rail line which will connect major suburbs in Maryland outside of Washington, D.C., and provide access to intercity commuter and heavy rail services. The Los Angeles Crenshaw Line, Phase 2, which will ultimately extend to the Los Angeles International Airport. And the recent opening of the Skyline in Honolulu, an 8.9-mile automated light metro rail system. We're also looking forward to new commuter rail lines operating this year in Orlando, Miami, Boston, and new light rail lines in Phoenix and in Seattle. With so much activity, strong interest, and resources, President Biden's vision of world-class passenger rail and ever more robust public transport in America is within our reach. The themes of today's symposium focus on the significant contributions of all forms of rail, from intercity to commuter to heavy and light rail. Let me comment briefly on each of these themes. First, economic value of intercity connections. I cited several examples of rail projects that will connect regional economies and make larger skilled labor markets more accessible. I do want to emphasize the Northeast Corridor. This heavily traveled route carries more than 2,100 passenger trains and 60 freight trains every weekday. This is one of the world's most economically prosperous regions, and it is because of rail connectivity, linking Washington, D.C., Baltimore, Philadelphia, New York, and Boston. Next, attractiveness of our cities. Healthy, attractive cities and vibrant public transport networks go hand in hand. The future of cities will rely on modern, efficient public transportation. Intercity rail hubs in central downtown areas will generate investment. They'll grow businesses and attract residents and revenue-generating events, thereby making these cities more desirable. Sustainability. In the United States, the transportation sector is the biggest contributor to greenhouse gas emissions. Public transportation and intercity passenger rail are fundamental to making and mitigating the effects of climate change. Use of public transit reduces carbon emissions by 55% compared to driving an automobile. And our use of electricity in rail operations is becoming more efficient. 16% better for heavy rail compared to 1995, and 25% better for light rail. Resilience. Risk assessments of both natural and man-made challenges have led to new standards and guidelines. But this is an area that requires constant vigilance and continuous improvement. From increasingly powerful storms to extreme temperatures and from cyber threats and terrorism, planning and preparation are essential to ensure many decades of return on investment. We have an exciting program planned for you today, and we are eager to get started. So let me conclude by expressing my sincere gratitude for our collaborative partnership with JITTI. Thank you, Mr. Chair. During this time of challenge and unprecedented opportunity, we can learn a great deal from each other and at this symposium. There are many changes coming to public transport in America, but what stays the same is that the enormous value that public transportation brings to our cities and our communities, and the enormous value that APTA and JITTI and that relationship that we have brings to both of our countries. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you, Mr. Skoutelas. We're now honored to have a special video greeting from Shigeo Yamada, Ambassador Extraordinary and Plenipotentiary of Japan to the United States. Appointed to his current position in December 2023, Ambassador Yamada has quickly fostered U.S.-Japan relations, including in his recent participation in officially opening the 2024 National Cherry Blossom Festival, which has long celebrated U.S.-Japan friendship. We're grateful for his acknowledgement and support of our symposium today.
Good afternoon, everyone. I want to thank Mr. Shukuri, Mr. Skoutelas, and their colleagues for inviting me to this symposium. I regret that I'm not able to greet you in person, as I have to be with Prime Minister Kishida, who is currently on an official visit to the United States. As Japan's ambassador to the United States, I am honored to support an industry that has a long history of innovation and exchange between our two countries. In 1854, a U.S. expedition to Japan presented to the shogun a unique gift, a model steam train, just large enough to ride. The train captured Japan's imagination and helped fuel the development of railroads in my homeland. 170 years later, the Japan-US relationship is stronger than ever. As our countries face many serious challenges together, our close cooperation in meeting those challenges transcends bilateral and regional partnerships. We have become global partners. This strong government-to-government relationship is supported by a wide-ranging network of partnerships between our two countries in economic, academic, cultural, and other fields. So every sector of our society has a key role to play in making a stronger and more stable Japan-US partnerships. One of the most promising areas for Japan-US collaboration is railroads. Both the United States and Japan have invested heavily in rail technology. In America, the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act made passenger rail a major priority. And as the largest foreign investor in the United States, Japan is helping to build the future of transportation in this country. Just last month, I celebrated the unveiling of Hitachi's new high-tech rail cars, which will power the DC Metro and create new jobs at the company's plant in Maryland. The federal government recently awarded the first grant for the Texas high-speed rail project, which uses Japan's Shinkansen technology. From cutting-edge maglev trains to transit-oriented development strategies, Japan has many areas with great potential to contribute to infrastructure in the United States. Events like today's symposium keep the momentum going. They create opportunities for our two countries to work together to maintain competitiveness in advanced technology fields and to lead sustainable and inclusive economic growth. One long-time symbol of our ties is the cherry blossoms in this city, a gift from Tokyo to Washington, D.C. in 1912. We celebrate them each year through the National Cherry Blossom Festival. The Embassy of Japan is proud to support this symposium, one of the official events of the festival. I hope that Japanese contributions to railroads in the United States will be an enduring and cherished symbol of our friendship, just like the cherry blossoms in DC. Thank you very much.
Thank you again to Ambassador Yamada for his kind support. This symposium consists of 3 opportunities to hear from experts in the fields of rail and government in the form of keynote speeches and 2 panel discussions, with a short coffee break to be held after the first panel. Our first keynote speaker is Jennifer Mitchell, Deputy Administrator of the Federal Railroad Administration. Ms. Mitchell was appointed to her current position in April 2022 and has over 25 years of experience in the transportation industry. Her accomplishments have included leading the creation of the Washington Metro Rail Safety Commission and brokering a landmark agreement between CXS and Amtrak. Please join me in welcoming her to the stage.
Thank you very much for the kind introduction, and good afternoon. On behalf of Secretary Buttigieg and Administrator Bose, who I know is very sorry that he's not able to be here today, I thank you very much for having me here. It is a pleasure to be here. Chairman Shukuri and JITTI, as well as Paul Skoutelas and APTA. I want to thank you very much for hosting this event and for all of you for attending this Rail Symposium of 2024. At FRA, we are very optimistic about rail's future and the potential both in the United States and Japan. There is very much that we can learn from each other. Last November, FRA representatives traveled to Tokyo to attend the second Japan-U.S. Rail Cooperation meeting. We look forward to continued friendship and collaboration. The opportunities and challenges surrounding passenger rail have never been greater. Recent events, including the signing of the bipartisan infrastructure law, have created major opportunities for reshaping travel and commutes, and there is much room and much reason for optimism. In the U.S., passenger rail travel is approaching and in some cases surpassing pre-pandemic ridership levels. Last year, Amtrak provided 28.6 million commuter trips or customer trips, a 24.6% increase over last year. On America's busiest rail corridor, the Northeast Corridor ridership surpassed pre-pandemic levels, growing more than 29% compared with fiscal year 22 and serving nearly 9.2 million customer trips. Amtrak has also resumed service on all of its routes that were suspended during the pandemic. Additionally, major passenger rail investments are underway in both the U.S. and Japan. The U.S. is implementing the $66 billion investment in rail from President Biden's bipartisan infrastructure law. This includes $8.2 billion for our federal-state partnership national program. We announced those grants last year for 10 passenger rail projects. That includes projects that will help deliver high-speed rail service in California's Central Valley, create a brand new high-speed rail corridor between Las Vegas, Nevada, and Southern California, serving an estimated 11 million customers every year. Other projects include major Amtrak expansions that would connect the Northeast Corridor to the American Southeast, passenger rail improvement and expansion projects in Pennsylvania, North Carolina, Illinois, and elsewhere around the country. Last year, FRA also announced 69 corridor selections across 44 states through our Corridor Identification and Development Program, which will be essential to future passenger rail expansion and become the pipeline of future projects throughout the country. A few examples of those projects that are in the planning and development phase include Cascadia High-Speed Rail, which is a proposed new high-speed rail corridor linking Oregon, Washington, and Vancouver with entirely new service. Charlotte to Atlanta, a proposed rail corridor linking the Southeast and providing a connection to Hartsfield-Jackson Airport, the busiest airport in the world. Also Dallas to Houston, a proposed new high-speed rail corridor with station stops in Fort Worth, Arlington, Dallas, Brazos Valley, and Houston. We are very excited about the potential of these future high-speed rail corridors. The successful completion of project development efforts through the Corridor ID program will position these projects for future federal funding. More broadly, FRA is very excited about this program, which will become the mechanism for developing intercity rail corridors and projects around the country. Last year, we also announced an unprecedented $16.4 billion for 25 passenger rail projects of national significance throughout the Northeast Corridor. The Northeast Corridor, running from Boston, Massachusetts to Washington, D.C., supports 800,000 trips per day in a region that represents 20% of the U.S.'s gross domestic product. In terms of overall value, NEC trains carry five times more passengers than all flights between Washington and New York and emit up to 83% less greenhouse gas emissions compared to car travel and 72% less greenhouse gas emissions than flying. An example of a major project in the Northeast Corridor is the Gateway Hudson River Tunnel, which has also received $3.8 billion in Fed state Northeast Corridor funding. This project is critical to the Northeast regional economy and that of the United States. It will generate $19 billion in economic activity over the project's construction period and address a very critical choke point on the Northeast Corridor that supports $50 billion that workers riding in the corridor contribute to the economy annually. FRA's Northeast Corridor investments alone will contribute more than 100,000 good-paying jobs. The Hudson River Tunnel project is expected to result in 72,000 direct and indirect jobs during construction. The Frederick Douglas Tunnel Replacement Program is also expected to generate 30,000 direct and indirect jobs, including approximately 20,000 construction jobs. As part of the $66 billion in BIL funding, Amtrak is receiving $22 billion over a 5-year period. This has already created nearly 5,000 jobs, including employing over 4,000 union workers. FRA is also investing in passenger rail through our Consolidated Rail Infrastructure and Safety Improvement, or CRISI grant program. This includes efforts such as restoring passenger rail service along the Gulf Coast in an area that has lacked rail access since Hurricane Katrina in 2005. Also, 2 new Amtrak round trips and 3 new commuter rail round trips on the RF&P corridor linking Washington, D.C. and Richmond, Virginia. And also adding 2 daily round trips to the Capitol corridor between Sacramento and Roseville, California. These developments give us great reason to be optimistic in the future of passenger rail. They also come at a pivotal moment in the future of our countries and the entire planet. Climate change and increasing frequency of natural disasters have highlighted the need for resilient and sustainable infrastructure. Investments in rail strengthen transportation networks and supply chains. Rail and expansions and improvements encourage modal shifts, promote greener transportation, and reduce roadway congestion. For example, for the California High-Speed Rail Project, we know that electric high-speed rail trains will take millions of cars off the roads and reduce emissions, further cementing intercity rail as an environmentally friendly alternative to flying or driving. New all-electric train sets will produce 0 emissions and be powered by 100% renewable energy. For the Brightline West project, taking millions of cars off the road and thanks to all-electric train sets, will remove an estimated 400,000 tons of carbon dioxide per year. And of course, the Texas High-Speed Rail Project. We're very encouraged by the partnership between Amtrak to take the lead on that project as well, and we were excited to be able to award that a corridor identification grant too. High-speed rail is very important to our president. The bipartisan infrastructure law is advancing many rail expansion improvement projects, including the high-speed rail projects I mentioned earlier. We are working to improve our passenger rail system, and as a rail safety organization, we are always interested in improving safety in our network. FRA admires Japanese technology and the safety record of Japan's rail system. We are very interested in the opportunity to introduce the Shinkansen technology in the United States and in the opportunity for high-speed rail in Texas via the proposed Amtrak Texas High-Speed Rail Project. We also understand that a future potential waiver of our Buy America laws will be needed for the Shinkansen technology needed for the project, but we are very optimistic about the future of this project as well. We are just getting started to deliver the 21st rail network Americans need and deserve. FRA remains committed to a future that brings world-class passenger rail to many more communities across our country. Major projects and corridor development are underway and meeting significant milestones. FRA will continue to make unprecedented funding available and support eligible entities and stakeholders to advance passenger rail efforts. We look forward to continued partnership and cooperation with Japan. Thank you again for the invitation to be here and for our continued partnership.
Thank you, Ms. Mitchell. Our next speaker will be Masako Okano, Deputy Director General of the Railroad Bureau in the Ministry of Land, Infrastructure, Transport, and Tourism of Japan. Ms. Okano has continuously worked in the MLIT since 1993, where she has held crucial positions, including as Director of the Urban Railway Policy Division in the Railway Bureau and Director of the Policy Division in the Policy Bureau, before being appointed to her current position in July 2023. Please join me in welcoming Ms. Okano to the stage.
Thank you very much for kind introduction. I'm very much grateful and honored to be here today and give a presentation. And as a keynote speech, I would like to make a short presentation in Japanese. Okay.
Thank you very much once again. Thank you for inviting me. I am honored to speak at this official National Cherry Blossom Festival that symbolizes the friendship between Japan and the United States. I understand that United States plans to spend a large federal budget for the expansion of the rail network under the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act and other laws. Against this background, the theme of today's symposium is very timely, and I am excited to be here. Japan prides itself on being a major railroad power in the world. Railroads have played an important role in economic development, as well as being important social infrastructure that supports people's lives as they commute to work and also to school. Rail also has excellent environmental performance and is expected to make a significant contribution to the realization of a sustainable society. However, the future of Japan's railroad is not necessarily rosy, and then the country is coming to a crossroad due to different challenges that I'd like to share with you today. Today, I'd like to share with you, and also this is the agenda, and then also I'd like to start with an overview of Japan's railway network. There are three characteristics that illustrate the uniqueness of it. First, private capital has led the development. Japan's rail system was built and opened in 1872, which is 150 years ago after Japan resumed exchange with foreign countries under the guidance of foreign engineers. As the country modernized, the rail system was rapidly developed. Along the way, the system was once nationalized, but the development continued with private capital as a principle. So there are 217 private railway companies. Second, Japan's network has high density of routes and a high percentage of use. Japan's landmass is approximately 380,000 square kilometers, the size equivalent to Montana, and then also 75% of the land is considered mountainous. And then with this environment, the rail network is approximately 28,000 kilometers. The route density per country's landmass is the highest among major countries, 6.58 times denser than the United States, 2.2 times denser than the United Kingdom. When it comes to passenger kilometer, railway has the highest share of 30% among the major countries and is the familiar mode of transportation. Third, railways offer high environmental advantages. Rail offers great environmental advantage to begin with, and then also high passenger kilometer creates much more greater environmental benefits. And then you can see that CO2 emissions per passenger kilometer with rail, 17 grams. So that means that's 1/8 of private vehicles and also 1/6 of aviation. Next, I'd like to discuss the railway network development in Japan, including Shinkansen and also urban routes. I'd like to start with Shinkansen development. In 1964, the year of the Tokyo Olympics, the Tokaido Shinkansen began service as a high-speed rail connecting the two major cities of Tokyo and Osaka. Since then, the Shinkansen has been developed successively and now has 10 routes with a total length of 3,300 kilometers, and also the total number of passengers is 11 billion from 1964 to 2019. In addition, so this Shinkansen is currently considered in Texas to be implemented, so this is such great news to us. In addition, some routes are still under construction or scheduled for construction. The linear Chuo Shinkansen will connect Tokyo and Osaka, a distance of 550 kilometers, in 67 minutes at a speed of over 500 kilometers per hour. At this speed, you would be able to travel between Washington, D.C. and New York City in about 40 minutes. The Shinkansen is fast and services are very frequent. That means that urban areas throughout Japan are well connected. This has contributed to significant economic growth along the routes. This is an example of Hokuriku Shinkansen. The Tokyo-Kanazawa service opened in 2015. The distance between these two cities is 454 kilometers. Before the Shinkansen technology was implemented, it took 3 hours and 47 minutes, but now 2 hours and 28 minutes, achieving time saving of 79 minutes. So as a result, the land value near Kanazawa Station increased by 17%, and also the region attracts more tourists, and also the economic effect is estimated at $454 million. Moving on to Japan's urban railway networks. In urban areas, subways and also railway systems have been enhanced to reduce congestion and also improve speed and also increase airport access, and the length of lines have increased 1.7-fold to 2,420 kilometers in 55 years. In addition, since these services have been developed with private capital, with several railroad operators in each city, users have to transfer between the lines to use different operators. However, in order to solve this inconvenience, mutual direct service is provided so that a user can stay on the same line to go to different routes operated by different companies. And with a density of urban rail lines of 3.84 kilometers, so Tokyo operates at a much higher density than Paris or New York, and it is an important and also convenient means of transportation for commuting to and also from work and school. As I mentioned, Japan's urban rail network has been led by private sector. So this enabled by transit-oriented development, or TOD. Specifically, railroad companies create their own demand for railroads connecting urban and suburban areas by developing residential lands in the suburbs, and also office buildings and also commercial facilities near stations in urban centers. In addition, the business model creates a virtuous cycle in which profits from rails are used to invest in real estate, retail, and also other businesses to generate profits, so that will be invested back to the rail system as well. So the Japanese-style TOD has led to the development of urban railways in Japan through private capital. Rail is environmentally friendly and also economically beneficial, and it is a critical social infrastructure that supports people's lives. However, Japan's railways are facing big challenges. First one is the decline of ridership, especially in rural areas. Second is addressing decarbonization. With population decline, I'd like to talk about this one first. Convenient road transportation and other factors, ridership is declining, especially in rural areas, and also that has led to increasing difficulties for some operators in maintaining their services. And then passengers transported per kilometer per day is called transportation density. When it declines to lower than 2,000 people, a private operator might not be able to maintain their route with their own capital and also funds. The low transportation density, fewer than 2,000 people, was 16% in 1987, but it's now more than doubled in 2020 to 39%. With this background, some cities are combining restructuring of transportation and city planning together. This is an example of Toyama City. Toyama City is located approximately 340 kilometers northwest of Tokyo, with a population of about 400,000 people. Toyama City has arranged residential areas, administrative offices, and cultural facilities around Toyama Station, and built a large bus terminal in front of the station. In addition, a tram train loops from the square in front of the station to enhance the circulation of the entire town. The town's transportation-oriented development has led to revitalization and the maintenance of the rail service. In addition, I'd like to talk about decarbonization as a second challenge. Rail is fundamentally environmentally friendly. However, Japan has an ambitious goal to become carbon neutral by 2050. Our ministry, in collaboration with rail operators, identified these three policies. So the first pillar is decarbonization of railway business here. So you can see this fuel cell rail cars that has been in demonstration since March 2022, which is developed by JR East. The second pillar is decarbonization through railway assets. For example, solar power generation and consumption on station properties, and then also hydrogen transport by rail are being considered. The third pillar is decarbonization by promoting the use of railways. Operators are promoting behavioral change by visualizing reduction in CO2 emissions by the use of rail. These directions or pillars will collectively enable Japan to become carbon neutral by 2050, and also the rail sector to achieve carbon reduction to 46% by the 2030s. So I'd like to summarize my presentation. Railways continue to play a significant role in achieving a sustainable society. However, some railway lines, especially in rural areas, have become difficult to maintain due to population declines and also other factors. Against this background, it is important to enhance the environment to make better use of the characteristics of railways, with railways as an integral part of urban development. We need to further reduce environmental impacts and also enhance disaster response so that railway facilities will continue to contribute to achieving a sustainable society. So the Japanese government is committed to work with railway operators to spearhead these policies. This was a quick overview of our ambitious goals and also initiatives. So thank you very much for listening, and then also I'm looking forward to meaningful panel discussions as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Okano. Ladies and gentlemen, at this time, please permit us a moment as we conduct a brief change in staging. We'll move on to the next section momentarily. For those who may have entered a little later and didn't hear earlier, as a reminder, headsets for English are channel 1 and Japanese is channel 2. We anticipate from this point in the programming there will be back and forth between English and Japanese, so please keep this in mind. We will shortly begin our first panel discussion and kindly ask that our moderator, Mr. Brady, and panelists, Mr. Yosano, Ms. Okumura, Mr. Byford, and Mr. Edison make their way to the stage at this time. We thank you very much for your patience. The theme for this panel discussion is the economic value that passenger rail brings by connecting cities. Moderating this discussion is Chris Brady, Chair of the APTA Committee on High-Speed Rail and Intercity Passenger Rail. APTA Committee on High-Speed and Intercity Passenger Rail and Principal of the Commonwealth Research Associates, LLC. Mr. Brady is a recognized expert in the field of government relations and strategic planning, drawing on more than 25 years of experience at the state and national levels. Working in public and private sector positions, he has authored and contributed to numerous acts of Congress, congressional resolutions, and federal regulations and initiatives. I will now turn the time over to him, and when he is ready, to introduce each panelist and begin this section of the program.
Thank you very much. Welcome. You have picked the perfect week to be in Washington, D.C. Last week it was pouring rain. Next week everything will be covered in yellow pollen. This week is the perfect week with the Cherry Blossom Festival and a very successful visit by Prime Minister Kishida. And I cannot pass up a mention of the White House fact sheet that came out of the visit mentioning the Amtrak Texas High-Speed Rail project, because there are so many people in this room that are associated with that project and have worked on it. It takes a lot of months to get 2 good sentences out of a fact sheet, but it is something that for which there is no substitute. I want to thank Chairman Shukuri, President Skoutelas, for putting this symposium together, and of course Jennifer Mitchell. She's always a hard act to follow because she covers everything from A to Z. We have a wonderful panel here today, and I think the moderator already mentioned that what we're looking to discuss today is the economic benefits that intercity high-speed rail bring to connecting America's cities. With me on the dais today are Mr. Masaru Yosano, Corporate Officer, Chief General Manager, Consulting and Coordination Office, CNC, oversees High-Speed Railway Project Technology Planning Department, General Technology Division of JR Central. If you've never seen Mr. Yosano's business card, it is this big. Next is Ms. Satoko Okumura, Executive Director, East Japan Railway Company, Los Angeles office. Most of you know our colleague Andy Byford, who is the Senior Vice President of High-Speed Rail Programs for Amtrak. And last but not least, Chad Edison, my Vice Chairman on my APTA panel, and Chief Deputy Secretary, Rail and Transit, California State Transportation Agency. So our panel today will have 4 presentations, each 5 minutes long, and we have already proctored some questions and answered following all presentations. So with that in mind, I would turn it over to Mr. Yosano.
My name is Masaru Yosano from Central Japan Railway. Thank you very much for inviting me to this precious opportunity. Thank you. I would like to start my presentation.
Found the clicker. I'm so glad. One more.
JR Central Group is doing business in the field of not only railways, but also other areas such as hotels, merchandising, real estate, and construction and maintenance work. JR Central's railway business is to operate Tokaido Shinkansen and the conventional lines in the Shizuoka and Nagoya area. We have also started construction of Chuo Shinkansen by using superconducting maglev technology, connecting from Tokyo to Nagoya. And we are targeting to connect from Tokyo to Osaka. Chuo Shinkansen will work as a bypass of Tokaido Shinkansen. As you can see, our railway business covers important area for Japan's economy. I want to introduce some key feature of Tokaido Shinkansen. One is the safety. We have no onboard passenger casualties since 1964. The high speed, Tokaido Shinkansen maximum speed is 285 kilometers, 170 miles per hour. This train set can travel 300 kilometers in the Sanyo Shinkansen area. The minimum speed of the Tokaido Shinkansen, Tokyo to Osaka, is 2 hours and 21 minutes. And the next one is reliability. Annual average delay time is just 1.1 minutes, including natural disaster like a heavy earthquake and heavy rain. Usually, there is no delay. Next one is high capacity and high frequency. Annual ridership of the before COVID-19 is 168 million people using Tokaido Shinkansen. Average number of the trains per day is 378 trains before COVID-19. Recently, the passenger number is slowly recovering, and therefore, average number train set of 2023 around 360 or 370. Maximum number of train set per day is 471 trains. We can operate Nozomi train, 12 Nozomi train per hour per direction. So which means at peak time, we can operate Shinkansen every 3 or 4 minutes to one direction. The final one is environmental friendly. Shinkansen's technology is very environment friendly. So compared with aircraft, energy consumption is 1 of 8, and CO2 emission is 1 of 12. Tokaido Shinkansen has been making a great contribution to the Japanese economic growth, as you can see. About of the 61% of the population is living in the corridor of Tokaido Shinkansen. I can show you about the 2 examples of the how high-speed railway contribute of the city development. In 1999, JR Central is constructed of the JR Central Towers in Nagoya. Since then, Nagoya Station area is highly developed. As you can see, in 2019, there are so many buildings near Nagoya Station area. And also, another examples, Tokaido Shinkansen, JRC constructed Shinagawa Station as a second station of Tokyo area. In 1995, you can see there's no big building, but when we opened the Shinagawa Station in 2003, you can see there are so many buildings quickly constructed. I want to briefly explain about the project we are supporting. One is a Texas High-Speed Railway project. JRC has provided of technical support to Texas Central since 2016. FRA approved of the key regulatory process of the RPA and EIS in 2020. JRC supported TC in this process. Amtrak is now exploring to join Texas project with TC, and we are very excited Amtrak joined this project. Next one is the Northeast Corridor SC Maglev project. This is a project to connect Washington, D.C. and New York by using of the SC Maglev project. Northeast Corridor company is now promoting this project. First stage to connect Washington and Baltimore as a showcase. The last one is we are also supporting of the Taiwan high-speed railway. As you can see, the number of the passenger has been dramatically increased in Taiwan. JRC has been providing technical support since 2014. So we are very excited to support overseas project by using of Tokaido Shinkansen technology. Thank you very much.
Our next presenter is Ms. Satoko Okumura, Executive Director, East Japan Railway Company, Los Angeles office. Ma'am. 。 。 。 。 。 。 。 。 。 。 。 。 。 。 。 。 。 。 。 。 。 。 。 。 。 。 。 。 。 。 。 。 。 。 。 。 。 。 。 。 。 。 。 。 。 。 。 。
。 . 。 。 . 。 Hello, I'm Satoko Okumura. On behalf of JR East, I'd like to thank JITTI, APTA, and all of you for this great opportunity. Here are today's topics. I'd like to share with you some of the effects that some of the initiatives, regional revitalization and interaction. And before I get to that, let me introduce JR East. JR East was established in 1987 and became a fully private company in 2002. The company operates an integrated rail system as well as a wide range of non-rail businesses as the JR East Group. JR East business is based on two pillars. First is mobility, and the second is our lifestyle solution services. We are aiming to attain a 50-50 ratio between these two sectors in order to build a more solid business foundation. Now our main topic. JR East has been working with its local communities for over 30 years to create a healthy flow of tourism to our different regions and to revitalize them. Let me introduce some of our initiatives. One example is the Gono Line. Since 1990, JR East and the towns along the Gono Line have been working together to attract tourists to the area through the operation of sightseeing trains. Their efforts are making a great contribution to the local economy today. We are implementing the same initiatives along our various lines. JR East offers unique sightseeing trains to attract visitors. As you see in the picture, locals are there to make them feel welcome. Since 2017, we have been offering luxury sleeper train trips to our various regions. In addition to train operations, we also try to improve the overall travel environment. Developing stations as community and transportation hubs is one important way to do this. We provide on-demand transportation in areas with limited public transportation. We develop unique, iconic hotels in our communities to attract tourists. We have also made many efforts to expand sales of local specialties. In the photo is a fruit park in Sendai City. We opened in 2021 with the goal of revitalizing the local economy and attracting tourists to a place that was severely damaged by the 2011 earthquake and tsunami. In 2021, we began transporting regional foods by Shinkansen. Fresh fish caught in the morning in the north of Japan can arrive in Tokyo in time to be served as sushi for lunch. This service has increased the value of local products. Local culture is very important both for community stability and to attract tourism. The East Japan Railway Cultural Foundation provides financial support to local communities to help them preserve their traditions. This survey shows that train travel is preferred for certain distances. We are working to increase the number of people choosing trains. As an example, we can see the positive effect of the Hokuriku Shinkansen. In 2015, a direct link from Tokyo to Kanazawa City was completed, reducing the travel time by 80 minutes without the need for transfers. In the first year after this link opened, the number of tourists in prefectures along the line increased by 16 to 18%, while the number of Shinkansen passengers tripled, and in Kanazawa City, land prices doubled. In conclusion, for JR East, vibrant local communities are the foundation of our corporate operations. There is a limit to what we can do alone, but by working with local communities, we can make our efforts more effective and sustainable. Our position is ideally suited for the role of promoting regional development in cooperation with various kinds of partners. Through regional revitalization unique to JRE's group, we promote the interaction of people, products, and services, and contribute to regional economic development. Oh, thank you. This is a quick explanation. I'm in the railroad industry, so I try to be punctual. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Okumura. Our next presenter is Andy Byford, Senior Vice President, High Speed Rail Programs, Amtrak.
Thank you, Chris. Well, that's a hard act to follow. First of all, amazing what you're doing in Japan. Note to self, I need to go on the Sake concept train. What do you reckon, Chris? We should do that. So look, that is a hard act to follow. I mean, any railway that can talk about 1 minute, 18 seconds average delay, that's super impressive. We're proud of what we do at Amtrak, though. We're very proud. We're America's railroad. I've been there just over a year now. You can see the stats there for what we do. We serve the whole of the nation, and we're very proud. We've got fabulous employees, 23,000 strong team, and our ridership is actually back, as the Deputy Administrator was saying, to above COVID levels. We're booming, as you see at the bottom there, more demand for service than seats, and that's a nice problem to have. Because things really are motoring under the Infrastructure and Jobs Act. We've finally got some funding, good funding, and that's, again, a very good place to be. So often in railways you are clamoring for funding, desperate for funding, but we're in a position where we can actually make now a good investment and across the whole of our service offer, not just the Northeast Corridor, important though that is. We're making investment across the whole country and across all three of our service groups. And as was mentioned earlier, it's actually the largest construction program in the country. And that's important because we have a very clear goal to double our ridership by 2040 and to reach net zero by 2045. So that means new fleet, complete fleet modernization. We're changing the onboard service offer, upgrading every aspect of that service offer. As you heard earlier, we're making huge investment in things like the Northeast Corridor to make it fit for purpose. And it has a huge economic impact. You can see some of the stats there. As was said earlier, to me there's a compelling business case for investment in railways because A, there's the societal good, there's the environmental good, but it makes good economic sense. Look at some of those statistics about the positive economic impact both to the country and to communities and to individuals in terms of good paying jobs. Exciting times. I just want to hone in quickly on the state of Texas, which is traditionally not that well served. It's a huge area, you'll see on the next slide, but we have big plans for Texas. Obviously, the signature, the headline piece being the Dallas to Houston high-speed rail corridor, but again, across the whole of the Texas Triangle, and including extensions to come up to some of our existing services. And here's that map I thought I'd talk to you about. I did not know till I came into this job just how big Texas is. It's enormous. Look at the size of that. It's half of France, the Netherlands, Germany. It's a huge network, it's a huge state. And the network on the right is a comparison then to the kind of railways that are in Germany. And it just shows you the difference, as does this slide. We've done a comparison here between two cities or two city pairings of not that difference. Berlin and Hamburg, you can see the population there, you can see the two populations at either end, and you can see Houston and San Antonio. But when you look at the distances, they're very similar, 180 miles to 197. The drive time is, of course, pretty much similar. But look at the difference in service. That blew my mind when I saw that statistic. Thank you, Thomas, for putting this together. I had to, I checked that stat. It can't be right, but it is right. There you go, 60 daily trains between Berlin and Hamburg, 0.86 between Houston and San Antonio. So we want to do something about that. One of those somethings is high-speed rail, one of the true high-speed rail, which we see very much as part of a jigsaw of different transport offers. It's not a panacea, it's not a means to an end to itself, but it's part of that overall jigsaw of the transport transport offer that Amtrak aims to achieve. So you've got mass transit, you've got conventional rail. It's part of that jigsaw for the right route. And we would say that Dallas to Houston is absolutely the right route. If you line up all of the factors that you need in terms of populations at either end, suboptimal alternatives, reasonable topography, and the right distance, 240 miles, it makes such a compelling opportunity. So, Jennifer, we're so grateful for you and the FRA for providing us with the means to fund that program. And of course, the really exciting thing is we would be using the legendary, unparalleled Shinkansen technology with its safety and reliability record that you saw earlier. So watch this space. As we say that, we're working to deliver a new era of rail for Amtrak and for the US. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Andy. Did you want to say something about Texas before you got? No, sorry. Our next presenter is Chad Edison, Chief Deputy Secretary, Rail and Transit, California State Transportation Agency, and I should add is the Vice Chair of APTA's High Speed Intercity Passenger Rail Committee. Chad?
Thank you very much, Chris. Well, I have the privilege of working in California with transit agencies, rail operators across the state, and also with the state agencies that oversee them. And our job is to integrate rail and transit so that more people can use rail and transit services to move around the state. Our statewide vision that is laid out in our state rail plan, which is almost updated since the 2018 plan, is to integrate the state rail network to really ensure seamless transfers and provide capacity for robust growth in passenger and freight rail. In California today, we have over 400 trains a day running on our commuter and intercity rail systems, and that's going to grow substantially. We intend to have our passenger ridership go up about 10-fold, and our vehicle miles, our passenger miles go up 20-fold in the next 20 or so years. One of the things we lay out in our state rail plan are those near-term, mid-term, and long-term capital projects that we are striving for. But so far, we've already phased in $35 billion that we have funded in rail projects around the state. That is mostly state funding with some very, very timely federal money coming to us recently. And there's a substantial local investment in our rail systems as well. And so this is really critical, is the initial investments that help us stitch this network together. The climate change and resiliency are real issues for us. We have railroad sections that are very hard to keep open. A number of landslides and the sea level rise affecting our rail corridors during storms as well. And we're having to do some extra work right now on trying to keep our railroads open. The other thing is how do we transition to zero emission? And in California, we're very proud of the work we're doing there. Our Caltrain corridor is about to go fully electric later this year in September. That is really the foundation from which we hope to build more electric rail in the future through the state rail plan as we pull that across the bay and towards Sacramento. And then we also have hydrogen zero-emission trains that we are constructing right now. One is about to go into service down by San Bernardino, and the state has ordered 10 more. And we have a battery electric multiple unit test with Caltrain that'll take one of their EMUs, put batteries in it, and have it go on further south from the Bay Area. And then finally, contactless open loop payments. This is really critical to making it easy for people to travel around the state, allowing you to buy your train ticket like you buy a cup of coffee. And that's really a focus that we have. I put up here just a couple of maps. They're not meant to be, fully legible there for you all, but like if you look here at the Central Valley where we're building high-speed rail, really critical to that is just the number of jobs that creates. Almost half the jobs of the new jobs created in the Central Valley in some recent years have come because of the construction of the high-speed rail system. And we've seen young engineers who had gone to Southern California or gone to other parts of the country able to return to jobs in Fresno, return to jobs in the Central Valley to work on the project because of the opportunities there. And that's really exciting because now they can be close to their family, close to their support networks in ways that they weren't before. Also in Southern California, as we have a Brightline come into Rancho Cucamonga, we're working heavily with the Metrolink and the intercity rail operations down there to make sure we have really good services that tie together the region and improve the opportunities to use rail throughout the state. Part of the journey is all of these connections that you make at station hubs and so forth. And right now we are going through a transit transformation task force in California where we are looking at how we really need to change what we do in order to grow ridership and get more people onto public transportation and rail. And this slide here really highlights the importance of the longer trips. The trips that are 50 miles and greater in California are only 2% of the total travel by folks, but it makes up 25% of the miles that those vehicles put on the roads today. And in our trips of 10 to 50 miles, put on another 50%. And this really shows the high value of having the intercity and longer distance trips able to be accessed from all over the region that they serve. And that's part of our focus on tying things together. I won't dwell on this, but because it might come up more in response to a question, but as we work to start early service with high-speed rail, this just gives you a sense of the complexity of what we're stitching together here between the public infrastructure owners and the contracts that we will have to operate that early service. It's really heavily focused on the public partnerships there between the different agencies in California, and this is how we will launch our first services. So thank you very much. Looking forward to addressing some of the questions.
Thank you, Chad. And thank you for our panelists for your presentations. You may have noticed when you registered for this conference that you were asked if you had any questions to submit them then. So these are your questions that were submitted and then aggregated from people's registration. And the first question, I think, should go to Mr. Yosano. What are the pros and cons of the Tokaido Shinkansen model compared to other high-speed systems like the TGV or China's high-speed rail system? And you should feel free to elaborate since they're not on the stage to argue with you.
Yes, as I have mentioned in my slides, in the Tokaido Shinkansen, one of the characteristics of our Tokaido Shinkansen is its safety, stability, punctuality, and the volume of transport. And comfortability. I think those are the features. And then the Tokaido Shinkansen features is something that we would like to bring to Texas project. And so Tokaido Texas project is something that we are hoping to deploy.
Thank you very much. And this question, I think, also should be addressed by you and also by Ms. Okumura, which is, what, if anything, can Japanese partners do to make the American public more interested in traveling by train?
Yes. How can I say? The land size and the cultures are very different, so it's really hard to answer that question as far as what Japan can do. But at least, in terms of Shinkansen, we have a 60-year history. So there are things that we have done really well. There are things that we have not done well, but we also have accumulated data. These are the type of things that we can share with the U.S. And within that, perhaps you are able to gather some hint from that.
Thank you. Mr. Yosano?
Yes. You see, we, to the American citizens, we believe that it is necessary for the Japanese, for us to continue to encourage the American citizens to use rail. But you know, whenever Americans come to Japan and then ride the Shinkansen, they all get excited and then they really understand the attractiveness of that. So really, to experience Shinkansen is something that we can provide.
Thank you very much. I think the next question should probably be addressed to Andy and Chad in turn. Public transportation can be used for everybody, but these days high-speed trains have been are about to be instituted in the U.S. also. These investments have to collect high-priced tickets in order to make ends meet. Who can support the initial investment cost of rail and station or transportation facilities? Is this a public or a private sector responsibility? And you both bring such an extensive background, and Andy, an international background. Perhaps you can elaborate on how best for us to move forward to replicate what we see from our Japanese colleagues.
Well, thank you. It's a question I've often been asked, actually. Should railways be are they a business, or are they a public utility? Are they a public service? And my answer to that, and it's not meant to be a glib answer, it's genuinely and sincerely meant, is I think public transport, whether it be transit or whether it be long-distance rail service such as Amtrak provides, it is a public service, but it should be run as a business. And consistent with that, I think the actual financing thereof I think needs to be a bit of a mixture. I think the days of just expecting national governments to fund everything are probably gone, because more than ever, national governments have huge numbers of conflicting demands on them, so many different things to fund. But equally, asking the private sector to fund absolutely everything, I think is naive. And certainly, I can't think of very many high-speed lines, high-speed routes that have been exclusively funded by either the private sector or by the public sector. Typically, there's a mixture of both. And I make no apology for saying that I think that public money should be invested in high-speed rail programs because of the benefits they bring. And we talked about that in the various presentations that we gave. I jotted down a couple of statistics. Every billion invested in high-speed rail supports 24,000 jobs. So, for the sort of elected officials out there who might argue, well, we're not putting any money, why should we put any money into this railroad because that's not legitimate or worthwhile use of public money. I would respectfully disagree with that, because when you think of what the public benefit thereby accrued, then I think there's a very good business case to be made. And that brings me on to really also another bugbear of mine is why railways are treated differently to other modes. People don't seem to have a problem putting endless money into funding highways, motorways in England, interstates in the US. That's fine. But for some reason, railroads are different and seen as a completely different entity. And another statistic I've jotted down to reinforce the point that I just don't understand that concept, because there's so much societal and economic benefit, is the rail component manufacturing industry in the US supports 90,000 jobs, 750 companies across 39 states. So to me, that is a compelling argument to say that if you can combine the buying power and the tax advantages of the public sector with the innovation of the private sector, the transit-oriented development we heard about earlier, the people like Brightline who've got a very good model where they go along the median and they can get things done quickly. That is the compelling mixture, and that's certainly, now that we're thinking about Texas Central, that's certainly the kind of business model that we think can work. It won't just be public funds, it has to be a mixture of public and private, equity and debt, and that's how you get these things built, and that is to our mutual advantage.
I think that was very, very well said. I don't think anybody in this audience would disagree, and they would all probably support every last comment you just made. To the conspicuous case of California, which has enjoyed no shortage of its challenges trying to finance the country's most ambitious undertaking here. Chad, the question to you.
Sure, thank you very much. And one of the big lessons in California, as we've been working on getting our first segment of high-speed rail up and running, is the importance of the public sector in advancing projects through all of the early stages, really getting to where the environmental is completed, where the project is where the land for the project is acquired, where the permits are in place, and getting to that point where you can really be certain about all of the construction efforts that need to be made. given the way the California system is being built, where we're first putting high-speed rail trains in the part of the state where they can go the fastest, where they can cover the longest distances and connect to the existing rail system to have a well-integrated network, that is not a high-revenue, high-ticket price kind of environment in which we're running those trains. Our Central Valley riders today are some of the lowest household income riders on rail in all of California. And they use the trains in the valley already to get to essential destinations, to get to visit family, to get to universities, to get to hospitals. And the high-speed trains will really speed that journey up. They will allow longer distance travel to happen in the valley, but it's really being built first to enhance the network and to grow the ridership and to create that initial service where we can run fast and we can save a lot of time and we can have other trains to carry people to their final destinations. The need to commercialize after the corridor is built is likely to be the case in California. Our highest value service is when we connect the biggest cities from the Central Valley to San Francisco, from San Francisco to Los Angeles. And so the business plan of the High-Speed Rail Authority is to look to get that commercial value once the system is built, so that the higher revenue that you get from competing with air and from hauling longer distance travel is there. On the early, we have seen very good experience in California, both on the Pacific Surfliner corridor and on Caltrain. In services becoming much more cost-effective over time. As they grow their ridership, as they get heavier use, we've seen as high as 80% fare box recovery on the Pacific Surfliner. It's one of the highest in the country. We saw Caltrain lower its cost per passenger mile of carrying people by 65% in a 12-year period. And so as we really deliver good service, we see that the financial part of it improves as well. And we're on high-speed rail. We're not starting out with service that's going to attract the highest ticket prices, but it's going to provide an essential and really critical benefit to people in that part of the state. And we're investing in the rail services that connect to it as well.
Chad, thank you very much. Mr. Yosano, you wanted to comment here?
Thank you very much. Shinkansen has a very good characteristic, which is mass transit. In Taiwan, in 2007, they started commercial services. And then so they brought about 40,000 people to 50,000 people per day. However, that grown to 200 people per day. So in Taiwan, they grew so much in ridership. And also they have been able to add more capacity so that they can accommodate more people. And then so the growth of ridership is definitely a testament that once you try Shinkansen, then that means that you keep coming back to use that technology.
Very much. From the present, the American public looks at the passage of the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act as a huge expenditure of federal capital. But for people in this industry, they know it's really taking care of neglected needs that this country has had for 40 or 50 years. So when you look at the Northeast Corridor, for instance, one can almost argue that it's just bringing the Northeast Corridor up to a state of good repair in replacing tunnels, bridges that date from the Civil War, new tunnels into Manhattan. So we will be doing that for the next decade, 2 decades, perhaps. In Japan, there is also a vision for the future, which is that the Shinkansen trains carry so many people that they have gotten so long that you can't even maintain proper headways because of their uses. And the way that the Shinkansen from Tokyo was laid out, it was along the flat line, as has been described. Most of Japan is mountainous. And so can you talk to us, Mr. Yosano, about your undertaking of the SC maglev?
日本ではですね。
Thank you very much. In Japan, Tokaido Shinkansen, we have been trying to implement this maglev new technology. And then so this is what we have been working on as JR Central. In the first phase, Tokyo and Nagoya is going to be connected, so we are in construction phase. With this superconductive linear technology is something that Northeast corridor can use in the United States. So we have been engaging with the United States through TNEM, that is the company we have been working together so that we may be able to bring this technology to the United States as well.
Thank you very much, and I think your experience in Japan, you're under construction now. That will be instructive to show the U.S. once again, after 60 years of unblemished Shinkansen service, where the future lies as well. So thank you for your comments there. I think I would like to address the final question to the entire panel, and it is just a blue sky question of, other than trying to bring 350 million people in the United States to a conference like this, what are your ideas for how we can bring better high-speed intercity passenger rail to the United States? And I think I would like to this time start with Ms. Okumura. Talk too much.
So you were talking about high-speed rail. Yeah, it is correct that you need to experience it to understand the attractiveness. So Mr. Yosano talked about it as well. So we receive about 2 million American tourists into Japan, and also they often use Shinkansen, and they always say that it's cool, and then why we don't have that in the United States. So they always say that kind of feedback to us. So maybe experience it, that is the biggest attraction, and also understanding. That is the easiest way for us to promote this technology.
Sure. You know, this is a big part of what I think about every day. It's part of what we're trying to achieve in California. And I think what I see when we look at people's experience with transit is that they can't really get where they can with a car in a reliable, frequent, and time-competitive way by transit today. And in many of our cities and counties around California, the number of places you can get by car in an hour, you can only get to 4 or 5% of those places by transit in an hour. And so one of our challenges is really to take our intercity and high-speed and regional rail systems, make them the backbone of high-quality regional mobility and intercity mobility, and then tie really high-quality transit services into those that have more priority on our road system than they do today. You know, we have to feed these hubs and feed these major stations on our system with services that go all over the cities that they serve. And to make transit, to be able to start to shift people out of their cars and give them options that people want rather than sitting behind a wheel all the time, we can't only focus on the longer distance trips. Those are critical. Those are ones that are going to take a lot of the traffic off of the roads and release that space for other uses. But we have to have that functioning with a system where people see it as true transit that's in their city already is truly available to them. And today that's not the case. It's not that we provide that much less service than in a lot of other parts of the world. In the Bay Area, we provide 80% of the service that they provide in Zurich, Switzerland. In the Bay Area is 50% more dense than Zurich, Switzerland. And so, I mean, we're at a level of, you know, high service provision, but not getting the ridership, not getting the results, in part because we're not paying attention to the whole journey. We're not looking at how people can get across an entire region in a time competitive way.
Mr. Yosano, would you like to address that question?
Yes, when you use Shinkansen, it just revolutionized the way that you transport. Just to talk about my personal experience, my daughter from starting this April. She started college in Nagoya, and she returned this weekend. She woke up at 6:30 a.m. She made a reservation for Shinkansen. She jumped on the Shinkansen 30 minutes later, and then she was in Nagoya 3 hours less than that. So it was very easy to transport, very comfortable ride. So this is a type of future. If you can imagine such a future, then perhaps you can develop Shinkansen technology. Thank you.
Final word.
Oh, thank you. So my answer will be more than just high speed, because I think it's a truism for all aspects of transport, whether that be high-speed rail, whether it be conventional rail, whether that be mass transit. You have to have certain characteristics in place to make it attractive and to make people want to use the service. So it's got to be clean, it's got to be safe, it's got to be reliable, it's got to be regular, and it's got to be convenient. And in many ways, we need look no further than Japan, because I have been fortunate enough to use both the subway in Tokyo and the Shinkansen in a number of the Shinkansen routes, and it's just flawless. The stations are immaculately clean. You feel safe. The ticketing system is easy to comprehend. For Shinkansen, I'm amazed at the reliability and the regularity of the service. You know, the fact that you've got Shinkansen trains arriving every few minutes. Talk about why would you take your car? Why would you fly if you've got something that is so easy, convenient, value for money, clean, and excellent onboard service? So I think we've got a very good model to use there. Which isn't to say we're starting from scratch. I'm very proud of the service we offer at Amtrak. I'm very proud of our Amtrak service and the onboard crews that we employ. But I remain convinced, final point, I remain convinced that the real way to attract people is to get those basics right, but also once we can get a true high-speed route up and running in the US, we've got a Acela, but it's a high-speed train on a conventional route. Once we can get a true high-speed service with all the convenience and all the speed and the reliability and comfort and customer service that presents between two cities, once we get that up and running, other city mayors and other city pairs will clamour for it. No one now, hardly anyone, flies between London and Paris. Why would you? Why would you go out to Heathrow or out to Charles de Gaulle when all you have to do is get on at St. Pancras, next thing you know, you're in the Gare du Nord? It's a no-brainer, folks. Let's get it done.
Andy, thank you. Thank you very much. Try as we might to imitate the Japanese, our panel is only a minute and a half late, which they're only off performance for an entire year, a minute and a half. So we'll wrap up there. I want to thank our panelists and thank you for your attention.
Thank you to Mr. Brady and our panelists. We will now have a 15-minute coffee break in the foyer. We'll alert you when it's time to return to your seats and look forward to having you join us for the second panel momentarily. Thank you. We kindly ask that guests make their way to their seats. Our next panel is ready to begin. The theme for the second panel is enhancing urban attractiveness and resilience. And we are pleased to have Jennifer DeBrule, Director for the Virginia Department of Rail and Public Transportation, joining us as moderator. Ms. DeBrule was appointed to her current position in June 2022 and also serves as a member of the Commonwealth Transportation Board, chair of the Virginia Passenger Rail Authority Board, and as a board member for several transit organizations around the Commonwealth. She also has over 20 years of public service at the Virginia Department of Transportation and Federal Highway Administration. I'll now turn the time over to her to introduce the panelists and lead the discussion. Thank you.
Thank you. I just want to start off and thank JITTI and APTA for the opportunity to be here today. Chris Brady started out the last panel by talking about what a hard act Jennifer Mitchell is to follow, and I can vouch for that personally. I will also say it is a hard act to follow panel number one, but we will try to do that. The theme of our panel, our last panel this afternoon, is enhancing urban attractiveness and resilience. And really with this panel, we're going to pivot a little bit more to our urban rail systems that are the lifeblood of the infrastructure that support our urban environments, and particularly in Japan, where urban development has been cultivated mainly around railroad stations, where people tend to congregate, since railways and buses are the main means of transportation. In the US, things are a little bit different, but transit-oriented development is one approach, and we're gonna delve into that a little bit and see how we can use transit-oriented development and learn from the experience in Japan to reduce our dependence on automobiles. Additionally, we're going to talk about resilience on this panel, and I know in Virginia with our transit systems just in the last month, we've dealt with flooding, we've dealt with wildfires, and the changes in the environment and climate change are certainly impacting our operations, and so we're going to spend some time on the panel talking about how those effects of climate change have become more frequent and severe, how we as operators need to take measures and to make adjustments in order to maintain our transportation functions and to maintain that connectivity. We'll also talk a little bit about the environmental advantages of our railways as a countermeasure to the investment policies here in the US in the context of those investments in terms of climate change. We have a wonderful panel this afternoon. I'm so excited. Our first speaker this afternoon, I'm going to introduce all four, and then we'll walk through some presentations before we get to the questions that have been generated by the audience. Our first speaker will be Mr. Masayoshi Uemura, who's a Senior Managing Director for Urban Business with Hankyu Corporation. Noriyoshi Yamagami, Managing Executive Officer responsible for International Business Development at Tokyo Metro. Ms. Catherine Rinaldi, President of MTA Metro North Railroad, and Ms. Holly Arnold, Administrator and CEO for the Maryland Transit Administration. I'm going to turn the microphone over to Mr. Uemura to start us off.
Thank you for the introduction, Jennifer. Hello, everyone. I'm Masayoshi Uemura from Hankyu Corporation, Osaka, Japan. And thank you so much for inviting me to this symposium. Today, I'd like to introduce our urban railway development as a Japanese railway operator's case example. I'm sorry, but I'll speak in Japanese from now.
Well, thank you very much. I'd like to give you an overview of our Hankyu Corporation. So you can see on the left-hand side that has an enlarged image of Osaka or Osaka region. So this whole Hankyu Railway route map is here. In the center, it's Osaka, and then also Kobe, Takarazuka, and also Kyoto. We have 3 routes. And then the total length is 140 kilometers. A number of stations is 87 stations. And then also we have 1.79 million people riding our system per day. So I had the experience of riding the Washington, D.C. Metro. So that means that our system is about 70% of it. And then also our ridership is 3 times of the Washington, D.C. Ridership. And then you can see how our company started on the right-hand side. So this was established by Ichizo Kobayashi. So he's the father or founder of this metro system. Mr. Kobayashi had this idea and also 3 other ideas. And then the first one is real estate and housing development, and also developing leisure facilities. And also number 3 is opening the Hankyu department store as part of the station terminal. So he thought that business is to benefit the masses first. And then so this principle is still close to our hearts. And then, so I'd like to first talk about housing development along the railway lines. And then you can see on the left-hand side, so this was before the railway was laid out. So you don't see any houses or any other developments at all. So we purchased approximately 825,000 square meters of land. And then, so we laid out the tracks and also developed the real estates plots. And so our founder talked about how people can live better in the suburban areas and also commute to downtown area. However, this business model was very successful. That means that we have very dense population here. And then so we have been continuing on this tradition of housing businesses. So you can see some of the examples here. So we'd like to provide a better quality of life to people and also better housing to people. And also number 2 is developing leisure facilities in the suburbs. So with the open of the commercial operations of railway systems, we have decided to open a zoo and also Takarazuka Theater. And then actually this Takarazuka Theater is all female actors, and then also it has been in business for 100 years or longer. And also they sometimes put in Broadway playbills as well. And then you can see the first Takarazuka Theater and also the updated version here. And then this is a great example of Takarazuka Review Theater. And so they have close to 100% uptime as the theater operation time. And also the third pillar is opening the Hankyu department store as part of the station terminal. And then so back in 1920, the completion of Hankyu building is done. And then also you can see on the right-hand side, so on the lower floors, those are the department store floors, and then also the top floors are used as commercial or office tenants. And so our founder, Ichizo Kobayashi, he talked about city planning and also creating values for the local area. So he said, if a rail service does not attract passengers and also falls into the red, then you should generate passengers. To do that, you just need to create sites along the railway lines and also where people can gather. So that means that we were able to create our own demand and also attract people. And then so that means that this was a big shift from demand chasing. However, we went on to demand creation management. And so this is the big model that other railway companies in Japan follow after. And then you can see what kind of railway development and also real estate development we do. And so you can see that people can live and also shop at the department store, and also people can commute to offices. And you can see that if you have one downtown area and then also the residential area, the movement can be only one way. So that means that we need to have demands on the both ways. And then so you can see our area development here. So these purple ones are actually owned by our company or our group companies. And in summary, I'd like to mention that we have a very good sustainable railway business model. So that means that we start with the railway development, and then also we attract people so that people can live there and also shop there, and also they can run errands near the railway routes. And then so we have been continuing on with this tradition even through the COVID pandemic. And then I'd like to show one picture of a train car here. And then so these mascots, this mascot is actually from our World Expo Osaka that's coming up in 2025. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you. And now, Mr. Yamagami, would you like to give your presentation?
Thank you, Jennifer. A very good afternoon to you all. My name is Noriyoshi Yamagami from Tokyo Metro, and I'm going to touch upon our preparedness for natural disasters. This is our overview. Tokyo Metro is responsible for a core part of the railway network in the greater Tokyo area, operating 9 subway lines with 195 kilometers and 180 stations. We carry 5.95 million people every day. For us, the great serious risk lies in a large-scale flooding, and this risk is becoming even greater in Tokyo due to the recent frequent torrential rains. In 2010, National Disaster Management Council of Japan revealed that the majority of subways would be submerged due to large-scale flooding caused by the overflowing Arakawa River, very big river. The red lines in the figure on the left indicate submerged subway lines. If countermeasures are taken, the damage can be significantly mitigated as shown in the figure on the right. Based on that simulation, we set about further development of flood preventive measures, including watertight station entrances, flood prevention gates at tunnels, etc. And this is about plant suspension. We also take this measure, our main countermeasure against flooding. If weather forecast warns a threat of major flooding, we make an advance announcement and implement planned suspension prior to typhoon landing. This ensures zero passenger at stations. After suspension, we take measures to prevent flooding of stations and critical facilities, then evacuate train cars and employees, and finally, close watertight gates. A planned suspension enables us to protect our customers and facilities without confusion and to resume operation smoothly and early. We think that the disaster management should be focused on how to protect customers' safety, how to prevent or mitigate damages to facilities, and how to resume transport services without disruption. We take the same approach for the earthquake countermeasure. We have been enhancing reinforcement against earthquakes so that even extremely strong earthquakes will not cause collapse. Thanks to the strong facilities, smooth and early resumption of operations is possible. In the event of a strong earthquake, we ensure our passengers' safety by making an emergency stop. Our earthquake warning system makes the train stop immediately. Then stop trains run to the nearest station to evacuate the passengers. Then a walk-in inspection is conducted. In the past, if any one of 6 seismographs exceeded the regulation value, the entire network used to be inspected by technical staff on foot. But after the area seismographs at 36 locations were installed in 2007, we conduct inspections depending on the measurement of each area. Walk-in inspections are conducted only at areas where a strong earthquake is measured. We can resume operations area by area wherever safety is confirmed. Through this procedure, resumption of operations can be done much earlier than before. In summary, in preparation for natural disasters, we have been conducting various countermeasures to protect the lives of our customers, to prevent or mitigate damage to facilities, and rolling stock or prompt resumption. By so doing, we managed to support the function of Tokyo, and this is our mission. Thank you very much for listening to me.
Thank you. All right, Kathy?
Hi, everybody. My name is Kathy Rinaldi. I'm the president of Metro North Railroad in New York, and for about a year and a half, I was also the interim president of the Long Island Railroad. Both of those railroads are part of the New York Metropolitan Transportation Authority, which also includes the subways, the buses, bridges, and tunnels in the New York metropolitan area. But I'm going to speak largely about commuter rail here, mostly about Metro North, but a little bit about Long Island. There we go. Okay, thanks. Stop my time. Okay. Well, I'll tell you a little bit my system without the map being up. The map should be coming up shortly. So Metro North serves the northern suburbs of New York, so serves Westchester County, Putnam County, and then under contract with the state of Connecticut, serves Fairfield and New Haven counties. We run 746 weekday revenue trains, 683 of those in that area, and then we also have a service agreement with New Jersey Transit to operate service west of Hudson, and we operate 63 west of Hudson trains. The Hudson River, oh, there we go. There's my map. Okay, so now you can see what I'm talking about there. So by and large, most of our services on the east side of the river. We do run service on the west side of the river under contract with New Jersey Transit. I was about to say that the Hudson River may be called a river, but it is actually a tidal estuary, which will become more relevant as we talk about some of the resiliency challenges that we deal with at Metro North. The Long Island Railroad is there down to the right. It's a much older railroad than Metro North. Metro North recently celebrated its 40th anniversary. Long Island is coming up on its 190th anniversary, so they've been around quite a long time. And that service serves the suburbs of New York and also Brooklyn and Queens. Paul Skoutelas alluded to it in his opening remarks. Long Island recently unveiled a second terminal within the city of New York, Grand Central Madison, which is below the existing Grand Central Terminal. An exciting development that provided a 41% increase in service, for those customers on Long Island, and also created tremendous connectivity between the two railroads, the one upstairs and the one downstairs. So let's talk about some of the resiliency challenges. Again, I'm going to focus pretty much on Metro North, but some of these things are in common to both railroads. We have seen significant challenges over the course of the last couple years, largely because of heavy rains. We had, as you'll all recall, Hurricane Sandy in 2012. That was largely a storm surge event that caused infiltration of salt water really throughout the system. But over the course of the last couple years, it's been the torrential rains that have really kind of knocked us for a loop. So if you look at some of these statistics, which came from a study in the city of New York, the expectation is between now and the 2050s, you're going to see 3 times more likely severe coastal events, average monthly high tides up to 30 inches higher. So that's that issue of clear day flooding on the monthly basis for the high tide. The torrential rain events have been significant. So we've doubled the amount of torrential rain events and 3 times as many extreme heat events across our system. I feel funny saying this in Washington, D.C., but nobody moves to New York for the weather. Okay. So here is how this plays out on both systems. So you can see here the tracks. Again, I'm going to focus a little bit on Metro North, but you can see how these torrential rain events will affect tracks. The locations that are highlighted in red on the map experience stormwater floods during 1 or more recent torrential rain events. So that includes portion of the Hudson and the Harlem lines, which is up to the north there for Metro North, and the Port Washington and Long Beach branches of the Long Island Railroad. So if you see that photo to the left, that's actually Great Neck Station on the Port Washington branch on Long Island. And to the left, you can see some mudslide that affected the Hudson Line along Metro North territory. Part of the problem, it's more an issue on Metro North, but to a certain extent on Long Island as well. We have 40% of our track, and 19% of Long Island Railroad track is near a steep slope or embankment. So the rain exacerbates, it's not just the rain on the tracks, it's also the mud going down the tracks when you have those kinds of extreme weather events. So quickly, I get an extra minute. So quickly, these are coastal tracks here. This is just low-lying tracks along both railroads. Back to my estuary point, the Hudson River is a tidal estuary. So even after the rain, hours a day after the rain, you can have flooding that basically knocks the system for a loop and actually will shut us down. So I'm going to actually go a little bit here we go. So what have we been doing to address these risks? Largely, it's been old school over the course of the past couple storms. It's essentially raising up the infrastructure to be able to protect it better from the effects of flooding. So here in Garrison, this is on the Hudson Line, we had a significant flooding event over back in June of last year, and then repeated flooding events over the course of the past several months, all related to heavy rain. And what we're doing is raising the track bed. We're dumping stone. We're raising the track bed, truckload after truckload, to be able to protect us against these tidal surges that occur after heavy rains. We are raising our signal boxes in the same way. We had significant flooding from heavy rains at the end of September of last year. 200 tons of ballast has been used to build up this signal box, and as well as old ties. Again, this is old school, not very fancy, but this is what we're doing to try to protect our system against these kinds of events. Let's pivot very quickly to TOD since I'm on borrowed time here. It's part of the overall theme, really, right? How is regional rail relevant, and how can we show to our riders why regional rail is relevant to the recovery and really the economic vitality of the region? These are some projects in and around Grand Central where we were able to partner with developers to get them to construct transit improvements that benefit the riders in and out of Grand Central, but that also allow them to build a little bit more in return for those contributions for transit projects. So this was a concourse that was built in connection with the One Vanderbilt project right next to Grand Central. This concourse benefits the new Grand Central Madison concourse, as well as the subway, as well as Metro North. Here is just some themes of TOD. This is what you're looking at here is a recently unveiled TOD project in Harrison and Westchester County. There was a ribbon cutting with the governor back in August. These are some of the themes that we're working with in terms of our TOD project. Again, unlock the benefits of building near our system. Housing is a huge, huge issue in New York. New York is not alone in that. And how can we partner with developers in the region to build affordable housing near our transportation networks that helps to ameliorate the issue that all of our communities are experiencing. So with that, I'm going to pass the mic over.
Thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Holly Arnold. I'm the administrator and CEO of the Maryland Transit Administration. I can't say MTA because there's too many of those, and we're a smaller version of theirs. So our system, we are multimodal. So we do have 6 service modes. We have a core bus system, light rail, metro, paratransit, our MARC commuter rail system, and commuter bus operating throughout the state of Maryland, but primarily in Baltimore City and Baltimore County. So we have 3 different types of rail that we operate, light rail, subway, and commuter rail. And we are also building the Purple Line, which Paul Skoutelas mentioned, in Montgomery and Prince George's counties outside of Washington, D.C. So we will have a 4th different type of light rail line that we're going to be responsible for maintaining and operating. That is currently still the largest transit public-private partnership in the country, and we've been continuing to move forward with construction there. Ridership-wise, we had in FY23 about 55 million riders over our entire system. Ridership continues to grow and recover after the pandemic. I want to dive a little bit in on the Purple Line and talk some of the TOD opportunities that we're seeing there and the integrated planning that we've been able to do with the local jurisdictions as part of this project. So it is a 16-mile light rail line, really improving east-west travel in Montgomery and Prince George's counties outside of Washington, D.C. here. The goals are reduced congestion, increased connections, improved travel time for riders. I want to really highlight the multimodal connections. We are connecting to multiple different Yamada stations. We're connecting to Amtrak stations, to our MARC stations, commuter rail, and then the local bus systems in both Montgomery and Prince George's counties. We've been fortunate enough to work with local jurisdictions that are supportive of the project, that have set aside and dedicated land for the project to ensure that it can be successful. And they've been partnering with us in ensuring an equitable TOD approach for the project. So we've partnered with the University of Maryland National Center for Smart Growth to make sure that as we are building this fantastic light rail line, bringing more access to people, that we're not displacing the people that are currently there. So they have a data-driven strategy that we've been using, looking at equity, people-first access, and making sure that folks can access these great stations that we're building. Currently, there's over $2 billion in real estate investments that are planned or underway along the corridor, including 8 million square feet of development. And then just this session, the General Assembly has really, and the governor have really been focused on housing. Again, housing is a problem in Maryland as well. We need more housing. One of the bills, the governor's bills that was passed, included density bonuses for housing near rail stations, which we're very excited about. The Purple Line will be included here. And then including additional density bonuses for affordable housing. So I do really see the Purple Line as a great opportunity for the region. It's something that we're looking towards as we are continuing to grow in Baltimore City as well. So speaking of other MTA efforts, we are also relaunching the Baltimore Red Line. So this is a project that was planned for a number of years. Unfortunately, back in 2015, the previous administration decided not to move forward with it and returned a lot of federal money, but we are making it happen again. We're really excited learning from some of the mistakes of the past, I think. And we do see this as, again, more than a transit project. So obviously, we do get to benefit from what we are learning on the Purple Line. The Red Line is truly, thinking about the historical context of this neighborhood, an opportunity for us to right a lot of wrongs. It connects neighborhoods that have been disconnected, including, a scar of a highway that was built in the middle of one of these neighborhoods, really disconnecting it. And so we see this project as that opportunity to do that, and we really want to focus, again, on those TOD efforts and the access benefits that this is going to bring at our stations. We did just win a TOD grant from Federal Transit Administration to look at the West Baltimore MARC station here, which we do see as one of the keys in West Baltimore. It will connect the future Red Line. It does connect with our MARC system, and we see it as a real opportunity to show how we can do really true sustainable TOD and improve that area. We're also, again, learning from the mistakes of the past. We built our current light rail system with no federal money as quickly and cheaply as possible. So they used an old freight rail line that runs not really near where a lot of development is, not near where people live, along a stream bank with a high embankment that is owned by the City Department of Forestry, and they don't want to cut down any trees. So we deal with a lot of the sustainability issues there of being able to maintain a system where I've got trees falling down on my catenary several times a year. But part of that too is really looking at our downtown and the downtown spine and how we can use the Red Line, connecting with the rail replacement grant that we just received to rethink what downtown can look like and really kind of spur development there. And then, I'm happy to answer any questions as we get into it, but we are looking at TOD throughout our entire system and how we can really leverage the investments that we've made to bring more riders to the system and to improve the need for housing and the need for better land use in the state.
All right. Thank you, Holly. So we're going to jump into our questions, and as you've seen from the presentations, we're covering kind of a broad spectrum of topics with this panel. But I want to start with something that Holly mentioned, and that was recovery from the pandemic. As mobility patterns have changed quite a bit since the pandemic, and I'm going to direct this question to all of our panelists, I really want each of you to talk about how you as operators have adjusted your service delivery coming out of the pandemic and how that how your communities have responded to that. And Holly, since you mentioned it, I'm going to throw it to you to start.
Sure. Yeah, so, I think as most agencies across the country have seen, lower ridership since the pandemic, more folks who are taking advantage of at least partial work from home or hybrid workforce. We are seeing significantly higher ridership on, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday in our system during the weekdays. But one of the things that we've seen is increased demand on the weekends. So our weekend ridership recovery on our MARC system, our commuter rail, is 70% compared to just under 50% during weekdays. So there is more desire for people to take transit for all types of trips. We've also seen a lot of events kind of generating additional transit ridership. People don't want to have to sit in their car, deal with parking, deal with traffic. And so we've really tried to ramp up. Our light rail is right next to our football stadium, our baseball stadium, and our arena. And so as much as possible, how can we ramp up service, advertise that it's a good option, and try and get people to kind of use it during that time. And then the one other thing I wanted to highlight that we're seeing quite a bit of is a real desire for bikes and multimodal access, that first last mile connection. Man, I get a lot of complaints about we do allow bikes on our system, and a lot of complaints about we need to allow more bikes on our system. And so we're continuing to try and make sure that we have that access for people to be able to, jump on the train when they get to where they're going, just jump on their bike and go.
Kathy?
Yeah, I think we're seeing a lot of the same trends that Holly is seeing. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, at least with respect to commutation ridership, are certainly strongest. On those days, we're probably, in the mid to high 70s relative to pre-COVID ridership, which is great. More people coming back on Mondays and Fridays are super quiet. So actually one of the things that we're launching tomorrow is a spring schedule that actually adds some service on the shoulders of the peak, because it's gotten to be more of a getaway day, and a little bit less service during peak hours, because people are just not traveling the same way that they were before the pandemic. Again, I completely agree with respect to discretionary travel on the weekends. In some days we're higher than where we were pre-COVID. I think that's been sort of an unexpected bright spot to the whole recovery of the region after COVID. And the other thing that I would add, and I think it was something that existed on Metro North before the pandemic and has really been, really a bright spot ever since the pandemic, is the reverse commute. We used to have commuter railroad in our name. We took that out because it's a railroad that really, many years ago, really cultivated a reverse commute to employment destinations north and east of the city. And a lot of those people are actually in service jobs. So some of those people were the first to come back. They worked during the pandemic. So if you go to my Fordham station in the Bronx, that's a busy station, and as many people, probably more people are going north than are going south. Those people came back early, and they continue to ride, and we're developing service programs and plans to be able to serve that reverse commute market, because it's a very important market for us.
Yeah, as the previous speaker said, our revenue is severely affected by the pandemic, but it has been steadily recovering. However, the commuter pass revenues have declined due to remote work or the web meeting. And it hasn't been returned to the previous level, the level before the pandemic. But on the other hand, in the non-commuter pass service, we think there's a room for growth in terms of inbound tourism or the excursion demand. And we are working very hard to capture strong demand of inbound tourism, and by developing a special ride pass for inbound tourists. And we are working to stimulate demand for excursions through the expanding the Metro Point club services and rolling out special tickets combined with commercial facilities as a special offer for them. Thank you.
In terms of Kansai region, the western region in Japan, I have earlier spoke about the weekend and then weekends. But you see, in Japan, we have more return during the weekdays. But during the weekends, Saturday, Sundays, we have not seen a full recovery since COVID. I think there are a lot of reasons. I think one is that the senior citizens stopped being active. They are going out less. And there's also secondary, transportation methods needs to be more developed, and also there should be more rail tracks or trains with comfortable seating where people can make a reservation or reserve a seat. And also there are foreign visitors into Japan in our Kansai region, and there are ways to purchase tickets by just using your credit card. And so one can easily purchase tickets. So when people come to Kansai, there are really easier ways to buy tickets. Foreign visitors do not have to exchange their currency into yen. They can just simply use their credit card. So these are the type of measures that we are taking. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Waimura, I'm going to direct the next question to you as well. What role do you see your rail system playing in enhancing the attractiveness of your city, and what kind of partnerships are you using to accomplish that?
Yes, just as I mentioned before, this really, you see, railways really can cooperate with a region to attain the economic growth in that particular region. In order to do so, there are many stakeholders, particularly the local government. These are the places that we need to partner with. There are also, recently we've seen an increase in the citizen involvement. So we really try and make an effort to have good communication with them. And so we do conduct economic growth through that, but we also need to have long-term vision as well, as far as how the economy is supported by the rails, and also how people can support the railroads. So there really is a multi-stakeholders, and we need to have a relationship with them. And when some problems arise, we can all cooperate together. You see, in order to create urban development, we do need to have land usage. So we also need to cooperate with developers. So there are also urban development that needs to see cooperation with the local governments, but we also have to cooperate with the developers as well. So thank you.
Our next question is for Mr. Yamagami. And with this question, I want to talk a little bit about extreme weather and how, you talked a lot about the preparations to deal with extreme weather with your system. What kind of partnerships and cooperation do you see with your partners in Tokyo to help prepare for and respond when you do have extreme weather?
We believe safe space and smooth movement of people are core elements for the people's economic activities and people's daily lives. And the transportation, including us, should play a crucial role to provide safe and reliable transport and to secure those core elements. And to realize this, we need to tackle natural disasters. And taking countermeasure against natural disasters, collaboration with related entities is crucially important. If you think about the flooding, if measures for flood prevention facilities are taken only Tokyo Metro, but not by related railway companies, connecting buildings or connecting commercial facilities, and then flooding will spread through the subway after all. And so all entities who are physically connected by, especially in the subway case, subway case must work together. In case of a large-scale flood again, people can avoid suffering inside railway facilities by planned suspension. But on the other hand, evacuation by rail will be made impossible after the shutdown, planned suspension. To ensure that as many people as possible evacuate by rail, it is necessary that local governments call residents to evacuate prior to the shutdown so that people can get on trains. But for that, well-coordinated procedure is vitally important, and it is only possible by collaboration between train operators and the local governments. Thank you.
Thank you. So for our next question, Kathy and Holly, this one I'm going to send to you. And maybe it's because it's budget season for all of us. We've heard from our Japanese colleagues that their systems are primarily private corporations, and here in the US, they're primarily a public utility. How are things going for you to gain consensus on how to pay for public transportation, both from an operations perspective and a construction perspective in our current financial climate? And you guys can pick one.
Yeah, I can go first. So New York MTA, like a lot of other transportation authorities and agencies across the country, was blessed to get federal aid to be able to get us through the worst of the COVID downturn in ridership. And like a lot of other, I think like all of the other transportation agencies dealt with what we've been calling the fiscal cliff. That, eventually, the ridership, was not where it was before and the money was going to run out. So we were very fortunate last year to make the case, and it was a real, full court press to make the case to elected officials in Albany and, the governor's leadership to be able to get funding to be able to continue our operations. I mean, really making the case that in New York, my boss says transit is like air and water, and it really is. I mean, you don't have to convince people that transit is what makes New York, New York. So there was, I think, a tremendous recognition that that additional funding was going to be necessary for us to continue to be able to provide the service that was going to be necessary for New York to continue to be New York. So, it was sort of a kind of a smorgasbord of different taxes and fees, a payroll mobility tax and some money from casinos when the casinos start up, and just, kind of a little bit of everything to be able to get us to be able to get the funding that we needed on the operating side, taken together with efficiencies that, that we needed to put into place with respect to our own operations to be able to show that we are credible stewards of public money, because that's a really important part of being a responsible transportation provider. On the capital side, we're actually making that case now. We have a 5-year capital program. We're sort of towards the end of our capital program now. So we're starting to get together what that next, list of needs will be for the upcoming capital program. And then, as I think folks have been reading, we've got congestion pricing, which is coming to New York, which is an important funding strategy for the current capital program that we're in now.
Yeah, a lot of similarities, I think, between New York and Maryland. We're incredibly fortunate to have a governor who's incredibly supportive of transit, recognizes the benefits and the needs for transit and improving transit in the region. And similarly, I think the General Assembly, we've been doing a lot of selling over the past year of the need for, it's interesting, like operating funding is the one that, like, it's just basic, but for a lot of people, they think more capital, and I want this capital project and that capital project. And it's like, no, we have to be able to keep operating and keep going with the things that we have. And so we've been, because of the fortune that we've had with some of our elected officials, there's a couple reports that we've put out that are helping to just sell the benefit of, we need to fund what we have today, and we can point to those pretty consistently. This session, the General Assembly did pass a slight budget increase, and I was really impressed with the way that they instructed the state to waterfall it. So we're kind of part of the state government, and so the funds come through the State Transportation Trust Fund. But they said first highway user revenues, so that goes to the local jurisdictions to basically make sure that they can maintain their existing roadways, maintain their existing systems, which for MTA is very beneficial because Baltimore City will be able to maintain their roads, maintain their sidewalks. We have a lot of asks of our local jurisdictions to help us prioritize transit on those streets, and we need them to be able to maintain them. So that's a huge benefit to us. The next was funding for locally operated transit systems across the state, so small urban and regional rural systems to make sure they have their funding. Third was MTA operating, and fourth was MTA state of good repair. So very clearly transit is seen as a benefit to the state of Maryland, and we've been able to sell the need to continue to invest in it. There was also a commitment to recognize that we're not there yet. We haven't filled that hole fully, and so we're going to come back next year, continue to partner, and continue to fight for more.
Thank you. So we're going to go with our last question. I know we have a couple panelists that have trains to catch, and we want to keep this train running on time. So I'm going to ask kind of, to steal Chris's language, I'm going to ask kind of the blue sky question. Each of the panelists very, very quickly. Biggest thing on the horizon for your system, biggest opportunity from a vision perspective as you look forward. What do you see the future looking like? And I'm gonna, Mr. Uemura, I'm gonna make you go first.
Thank you very much. That's an open-ended question and also a difficult one. So transit-oriented development is definitely an important thing, and also I think that people need to have a behavior to commute by transit as well. And then so in Japan, we do have many private train operators, and then so not only one train operator can encourage people to use transit. So that means that we need to work collectively together with other operators so that we can provide seamless transit systems all together. And then also for that, we need to think about developments alongside of the train routes. And then also switching from cars to train. That means that we need to have walkable landscape. So that's something that we need to focus on. So in the first panel discussion, they talked about trying out Shinkansen. That's the biggest appeal. And so that means that in our case, people need to walk around the neighborhood and also try the transit and then also go to different cities. And then so last year I actually visited Portland and also San Diego. And then so those are really walkable cities and very attractive. And then also very vibrant cities as well. And then so I guess that that would make people very, very excited about walking around and also use the transit. So that means that driving a car, that means that you're missing out on those opportunities. And then so making the communities altogether attractive, I think that would attract people back to transit.
Yeah, the Tokyo Metro Group engaged in a variety of activities, but mainly within the railway business. Actually, the approximately 90% of revenues comes from the railway sector. It is different from the Mr. Uemura-san's company. We are a little bit behind the Hankyu Corporation, but we are committed to continue to endeavor to pursue complete, safe, and reliable, customer-oriented transportation service to make Tokyo more attractive and vibrant. It is our first mission as a Tokyo Metro company. But on top of that, we are trying to spur real estate business, and we are trying to pursue a company which which is focused more urban design and lifestyle creation company. And we're trying to build two pillars. One is railway business, and the other is, which I mentioned, urban design, lifestyle creation company, of course, including real estate business. That is our now strategy. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I want to maybe touch on two of the themes in these presentations today. So the first, I guess maybe this is kind of good news, bad news. I think the first is just telling the story about resiliency and climate change, which is incredibly important. So if anybody has taken my system in New York, there's a place in the Bronx called Mott Haven where all three lines come together. And on September 29th, I was completely shut down because of heavy rain. And you can't have that. You brought those people into the city in the morning. You got to bring them home. So we need to figure out how to harden our system to be able to protect against risks like that, right? The other thing on the brighter, happy note is just in terms of the system as an economic driver, really key to the economic vitality of the region is this upcoming capital project that's underway now, which is working with our partners at Amtrak for Penn Access, right? So this is bringing trains in from the New Haven line on an existing Amtrak right-of-way into Penn Station, and it involves the construction of 4 stations in an underserved portion of the Bronx. These are people who have no access on commuter rail to job opportunities in the central business district, and also have no access to, or no meaningful access to job opportunities up the line in places like Stamford and New Haven and New Rochelle. I mean, this is something that's going to revolutionize public transportation in underserved communities and really knit the region together, and using commuter rail as the mechanism for knitting the region together. So we're really excited about that.
Holly, you want to round this out?
Sure. I do think it's an exciting time for rail and for transit in Maryland. We have $6 billion, thank you, Jennifer, that came from the FRA last year in partnership with Amtrak to continue to make improvements along the Northeast Corridor. We benefit from that. We're going to bring the Red Line, which will actually create a system, a connected system in Baltimore. We're going to finish the Purple Line, which again further builds out that connection and the benefits of connection in the state. And I think there's a lot of really good things that are happening, and I am excited for the future here.
I just want to thank this great panel that we gave them a very broad-reaching topic and a lot of things to touch on in an hour, and they've done a fantastic job. So thank you for your time, and thank all of you for being here today. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Brawl, and all our panelists for this great discussion. This is the end of our program. We would appreciate your feedback. If you could please complete the survey at your seats or via an email we'll send out shortly. The content of this symposium will be posted on the GTUSA website in the next few days, if anyone's interested. If you enjoyed this symposium, we would like to stay informed. Please join our mailing list on Facebook or X or LinkedIn. Note that to continue the discussion from today, you can also join the APTA Rail Conference, which will take place June 2nd through the 6th in Cleveland, Ohio. More information can be found on APTA's website. Our reception will now begin in the foyer. Thank you very much for attending the symposium today. Have a good evening. Thank you so much.